Zombie apocalypse.
Oh, hi! Are we live? I think we're live. Sorry, this is a new setup, so I have to like crane my neck to be able to look at the computer. Hey, Dirosity! Today's gonna be a little bit of different stream for my channel. It's been a while since I've streamed. You know, a lot of stuff has happened life-wise. First of all, like I took a brief break, quote unquote, because I got sick and like it was kicking my ass and I couldn't even like speak properly. And even right now, like I can still have some like so I decided to like take a little break because I wasn't feeling well and I wasn't sounding well. And then one thing led to another, and you know, the break became longer and longer and longer. I am sick currently. I am sorry to hear that. It really sucks. And yeah, so life stuff, work stuff, a lot of stuff. And I was like, I need to go back to streaming. I need to give myself a schedule. So I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna be streaming more consistently every Tuesday and Friday. That's the goal. Because I'm busy with a lot of stuff, and I wanted to give myself like a hard schedule that I can follow. So for now, I'm gonna be streaming around this same time. Right now it's like 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. So around 5 or 6 for a few hours on Tuesdays and Fridays. And in that time that I've been away, I like set up a whole, I can't show it right now, but I've set up like a whole painting station, something that I've wanted to do for a while. I wanted to have like a space where I can just like exclusively paint. And at the same time, I was like, well, if I'm setting all this stuff up to be able to paint and have this whole thing, why not also make it a space where I can like stream when I'm painting? Because I used to like record myself painting and just make like essentially like a speed paint video and like, you know, accelerate the heck out of it and just post like a 1 or 2 minute video on my Instagram or my Twitter or whatever, where I go from like a basic miniature like this and then to the fully, you know, painted result. And I decided like, why not take, you know, the chill, slow approach and just like record the whole thing, talk to people while I'm at it, people that may be interested in this hobby. I'm a big D&D nerd. I love Dungeons and Dragons, and because of Dungeons and Dragons I got into miniature painting, and I'd say I'm decent. I'm not like amazing, but I do want to get better, and one way that I can like force myself to be, you know, more proactive and better my skills is to actually put it out on the internet for everybody to judge. So that's gonna be fun. And I'm also excited. I finally evolved from, you know, regular like craft store plastic palette that, you know, this has served me for a long time, but now I'm moving up in the world and finally got myself a wet palette. So there's water in here, so that I can just like stop wasting paint because it dries. I was gonna use this, just like a homemade kind of version of it. I don't know if the camera is picking it up because it's too bright. It's just like a Tupperware with some padding that can get wet, and then you can put like parchment paper on it. But I'm moving up in the world, so I'm actually getting myself like an actual nice wet palette. And as to what I want to paint, so I haven't played Dungeons and Dragons in a while, but I do have a character that I want to play, and I want to make it like a dark elf or a drow. And I thought this palette elf rogue is very similar to what I had envisioned in my mind as to like what I want the character to do, and it's actually like very similar to the miniature that I designed on Hero Forge. The Hero Forge is a website where you can like design your custom minis and have them printed and send it to you, or now they're printing in like color plastic and stuff. But it's like whenever I want to make like an actual like player character miniature, I usually go for Hero Forge. The thing is that it's kind of expensive, right? And this is very close to what I had designed previously. But it's been a very long time since I painted such a small miniature. So before I jump ahead and like paint this stuff and probably mess it up, I want to practice some techniques with a larger model, you know, that has a little bit more real estate for me to like mess up and fix mistakes and stuff like that, rather than that very tiny draw miniature. I also have here that I need to paint a bullet. I want to paint this so bad. Last two things I painted were a roper, a Swain basilisk, and an umber hulk. Swain, I don't know, like the basilisk thing from Critical Role. I love from the Nolsers Marvelous Miniatures. I love their monsters. I'm not so much into their like PCs. I don't like these miniatures a lot, although I do love this one. And this technically like not Nolsers, just WizKid's line of Critical Role, but they're very similar. I think this has a little bit more like better quality than the like this is a Nolsers Marvelous Unpainted miniature. Like, let me show you this thing, and it's very flat. It doesn't have a lot of detail. Like, I don't know, I don't like this very much. I think the Critical Role one have a little bit more detail, but their monsters are amazing. So I have this bullet that I want to paint, and I have this remoras that I also want to paint. But today, I want to try my hand at this Ettin? I don't know. This is from Critical Role, and I'm guessing this from, you know, Campaign 2 from Wildmount. But I don't remember seeing this guy. I don't know. And here they have him like with blue skin, bluish gray skin. But I want to try my hand at doing this with flesh tones. So I don't think I'm going to go for the blue. Everything else I may paint the same. Just like the cloth and the base. And the barrel, of course. But I want to try my hand at doing this with flesh tones. Because I really want to get this like... what's the name? Like gradient, essentially, from light to dark in smooth surfaces, not with just like dry brushing. With flesh tone, because this is something like big muscle groups and stuff like that is something that you're gonna have to do a lot with flesh tones. And I want to try like getting like a smooth transition from the darkest tones to the lighter highlights. And I've been watching a ton and tons of videos on how to do like a smooth transition and layering and glazing and all that kind of stuff. But until I put the paintbrush to the model, I'm not gonna be able to like actually know what the hell they're talking about. So we're gonna try that today. So first we're gonna just open this. Yeah, I gotta say, I love the texture in this miniature. Okay, big guy, I need you to get out of there. Thank you. And they come with a little clear base. I'll put that to the side for now. And I am going to keep the back panel for like reference. I don't know where to put it though. I'm kind of running out of room already in my little setup here. So let me just put this like down here, I guess. Okay. Hold on one. Okay, sorry. It's kind of hard having to like go back and forth between computer and what I'm doing here and the computer and what I'm doing here to like look at chat and be able to do all that kind of stuff. So I kind of have my phone set up so that I can see people typing in chat. It's kind of a pain in the butt. I'm gonna see like what's the most comfortable way to like set this up, maybe like that, so that I can see chat if anybody types something and I don't have to like keep looking back and forth. Okay, so got my palette set up here. You guys cannot really see because all I'm showing is the miniature, but I got my palette right here. One thing I do want to look for before I start painting. So I know this is like something new for my channel. I don't usually like do stuff like this live. I just like play video games or whatever. But this is something that I actually like a lot. Like this is one of my favorite hobbies to spend time on. Just painting is so relaxing. So if anybody that follows me is like uninitiated to the whole miniature painting world, I guess I am gonna go and explain very sorry, I'm gonna try to explain things as if I'm talking to somebody that has never painted a day in his life. So when you have a miniature like this, I'm gonna be like knocking on this microphone a bunch. Let's see if I can knock. Is that better? I just have an arm in front of me. Hello, hi. Hi, hello, hi. Okay. I hope the levels are good. Volume. If not, people let me know in chat. I hope. So when you're painting a miniature like this, the first thing that you want to do before painting, priming, or anything like that is look for mold lines or flash, which is like these lines on the plastic. Like, I don't know if you can tell, like right here there are some lines sticking out. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. There are some lines from where the hi, 60 frames per second. Hi. There are some lines here from where like the mold, when the mold is cast to the plastic and they separate it from the mold, it leaves like this little mold lines here, also called splash sometimes, depending on what kind of miniature and what kind of like growth you have or excess plastic you have. So that's gonna show through the paint a lot once you paint it. So the first thing you want to do is like grab a hobby knife and scrape it very lightly. Now I hate doing it in miniatures like this and all sorts and stuff because this come pre-primed, meaning you don't have to prime them when you're painting. They already put like a layer of gray primer on it, and we're gonna touch on primer quickly. I don't like doing this a lot because then when you're trying to strip away like the mold lines, you are essentially also stripping away some of that primer. But if you're very light with it and just like try to make it flush, you won't strip much away, hopefully, of that primer. I really want to be delicate with it. So instead of going like that, just like I just run the knife lightly, like sideways on the miniature, to try to like even those edges out. Can you show it closer, the line? I don't know if the camera will pick it up because of light. Maybe if I turn the lighting down, let me see. You can see it better. Now I already took this one down, but you can see it here, sort of. I don't know. The camera might not be able to pick it up, but you'll know it when you see it, like when you're painting your miniatures. The only problem with leaving mold lines like that is that they will show through the paint. So even if right now it's not as alarming because everything is just monotone gray because of the primer, once you start slapping some paint onto the miniature, it will show through, and it kind of like messes with the whole aesthetic of the miniature. And people, when they start miniature painting, and I was the same way, as soon as they open the miniature, the first thing they want to do is like slap some paint onto it. But there are like 2 or 3 steps that you need to take before even putting some paint onto the mini. So step number 1, I would say with most minis, except for null source, and even some people like some people will recommend that you do it anyway, but I don't like doing it. First thing you want to do with your miniature is wash it with some water and soap. Nothing fancy. You don't want to strip the plastic, you don't want to strip the primer if it has any primer. Just want to like wash it with some soapy water, because sometimes they have like when they prime it or when they cast it, or you know, when they're trying to separate it from the mold, sometimes they use a chemical to like make it easier to unstick from the mold, and sometimes that chemical residue, it prevents the paint from like going smoothly onto the mini. So people will tell you, oh, you gotta wash your minis, and for the most part, yeah, it's a good practice that before you start doing anything with it, you wash it first. I don't like doing it with this because, like I said, this come already primed and it's not really an issue with these minis. But if you assemble like Warhammer minis or anything like that, you most likely want to wash it first. Then the second thing that you gotta do is put some primer onto it, because minis, they come in like a variety of materials. Some are made with plastic, some are made with pewter, like a metallic kind of miniature. Some are made with I can't remember, Ripper bones. I don't know if it's nylon or I can't remember. There's like different materials, and some of them take paint better than others. So the first thing that you want to do before you start slapping some paint into the miniature is to prime it. And primer, what it is like a chalky kind of paint that you can apply lightly onto the miniature, and that makes it easier for your paint, your acrylic paints, to stick to the miniature. Otherwise, if you just do it on the raw plastic like that and you start like moving it around with your brush, it won't stay. You will just have like brush strokes all over your mini. This helps it have like a clear, defined coating of paint that is not gonna go anywhere. And there are 3 different ways of doing priming. You can do something like this, which is just a basic gray primer, and it'll give you like a sort of mid-tone on your paint. Like the end result of your paint is gonna be like a sort of like a mid. And when I say mid, I mean like if you were to prime with just white, have white all over your miniature, the color, once you start like putting the paint on, is gonna dry very bright and colorful and like vibrant. If you use a black primer, it'll accentuate more of the shadows and the recesses, and when you put on the paint, it'll be the paint will dry in a more muted tone, like not as vibrant and you know, vivid. Is gonna be more like, yeah, like it's gonna be a more muted result. And with a gray primer like this, it'll just achieve like a middle of the way kind of end result. So you got those. Also, another thing you can do is like prime in specific colors. So if you know you're gonna like paint all of this in flesh tone, then you could like prime with a red or a light brown or something like that. That because acrylic paints are somewhat transparent, if a little bit of the primer shows through the layers of paint, then it's gonna give it a little bit more depth. So say, for example, if you were to prime with red all the skin parts, and you slap some flesh tone onto it, then when it dries and that transparency starts to show through, it'll just look like there's blood vessels underneath or something like that. It's not gonna be like, you know, you're not gonna be able to tell that the primer is there. But since it's a little bit like transparent, then it'll give it like that deeper dimension of like, oh, this is actual living flesh. So you can like prime in a very specific color to match the paint that you want to slap onto your miniature. And the third, and the one that I really want to get into, is cenitol priming. So cenitol priming, what it is, you're gonna prime with white and black. So the first thing that you do, you get like spray on primer, either from a can, or if you have an airbrush, you can do it with an airbrush. But what you do is that you prime the entire miniature black, right? You go first with black, light, and like do light coats of primer. Like you don't want, when you're applying primer, whether it is with a brush or an airbrush or a spray can, you don't want to obscure any of the details. So you have to be very light on the amount of primer that you put into your miniature. You don't want it to like gunk up and obscure the details of the sculpt of the miniature. So you do light passes with the black primer, let it dry, and then you're gonna make a second pass with white primer only on the top of the miniature, where essentially where the light source is coming from. It doesn't have to be the top, but that's usually like the, say, the classic, more common way of doing it is just having the light source come from above. But if you want to do like some object source lighting and want to have like the miniature be illuminated from the back, or you want to have it be illuminated from the side or whatever, you just like match where that light source is coming from, and you do light coats of white primer where that source of light is coming from. So if it's coming from the top, you will spray paint the primer, the white primer, on the top of the miniature, and only those surfaces that are being touched by the light are going to be highlighted with that white primer. And that's going to give you a defined distinction between what is obscure, what is in shadow, and what is actually being illuminated by your source of light. And when you're painting, that makes it way easier to determine like what's going to be shadowed and what's not, and how you're going to apply your highlights. So that's something that I wanted to do. I've never done cenitol primer before, but I've seen the results of people that actually do it for every one of their minis, and it looks just so freaking amazing. So that's something that I want to do. This one, since it's already primed, I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to start with base coating. And so that's going to be the official step one. Once you're done all your prepping, cutting all the mold lines and flash, and you wash your miniature and you apply your primer and stuff, then comes like the actual step where we're gonna start painting, and that's what we call base coating. You're just gonna apply the first layer of colors onto your mini, and I'm gonna be using this. I have different sets of brushes. I don't know if you can see if I show them over here. So this one is like my expensive brush set. I got it off of Amazon, but it's actually like pretty pricey. And these are the ones that I use for details and have like a very fine tip. And then this is just like craft store stuff that you can get at Walmart or Target or whatever, that I don't mind like destroying as much as the other ones. I might need just a tiny bit more water on this palette. Just a tiny, not a lot. Okay, now I said I wanted to do flesh tone first, so I am like selecting paints is also an important step, and I like to get all my paints out before I start painting. So let's see, what can I do for flesh tone? I don't know if I have. Oh, I do have heavy skin tone. So the paints that I usually use are Vallejo, Game Color, Extra Opaque, and inks. These are the ones that I use for like base coating and that kind of stuff. This is from Vallejo. Vallejo makes very, very amazing paints. I love Vallejo paints. And I usually go with their Game Color and Extra Opaque. Extra Opaque is just, as it says, it goes on in like a single coat of paint. And for washes, and we're going to talk about washes later on, I use Citadel washes. I think washes, like the Citadel washes, are the best washes ever. And I guess I could go with Raglan Flesh Shade and some Bone White. So I'm going to be focusing a lot on the skin tone because most of this miniature is just skin all over the place. So I'm guessing I'm going to use some heavy skin tone from Vallejo Extra Opaque. I hope it shows on the camera. And to make like the highlights and stuff, I'm gonna be mixing with a little bit of Bone White, which is not like super white like this one, but it has more of a like pastel color to it. And that'll make it look a little bit more natural. But just to start, I am going to be applying it right out of the bottle onto the miniature, and then I'll worry about layering different layers onto the miniature. Every time you are going to use your paints, you really want to shake the crap out of them. Especially, I'm going to be shaking mine a lot because they've been sitting for a long time without being used. So there's gonna be a lot of shaking going around. I'm just gonna put a tiny amount on my wet palette. Just a little bit. Oh, I also need paper towels. I have no space. Oh my god. Should have gone for a bigger table at IKEA. Always good to have paper towels with. Oh shit. I think I moved the camera. I'm telling you, this setup is not the easiest to work with. Come on. It's so annoying. I think that's good enough. Okay, some paper towels, towels, not towers, paper towels, so that I can dry my brushes. in between paints. Okay, and when it comes to base coating, you want to do light, even coats rather than heavy coats of paint that will obscure the details of your mini. I'm just gonna start applying this, and the good thing of extra opaque paints is that it really goes on the miniature very easily without having to do like multiple coats. Usually like 1 or 2 coats with extra opaque paints is more than enough. And so our miniature painting journey starts. Now, just because I'm doing this stream today, that doesn't mean that I'm gonna stop streaming video games and, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's and all the stuff that we were streaming before. It's just that I wanted to include this part of my hobbies for a while, and I figured you gotta start someday, right? Because if you keep putting stuff off for the right moment and the right moment and the right moment, I'm not gonna do it yet because I don't have a web palette. Or, oh, I'm not gonna do it yet because I don't have a proper camera setup. Oh, I'm not gonna do it yet because this and that. Then time goes by and then you never do it. So I was just like, fuck it, let's do it. Today is as good a day to start as any, to start doing the stuff that you love and following your passions. So as I'm applying paint to the miniature, I'm also diluting it a little bit. It's always going to be somewhat diluted because I am using a wet palette, but I also like to add a little drop of water to my brush so that it runs smoothly over the miniature. If it gets a little bit too runny and transparent, that's fine, because then I can just go over with a second coat, a second pass. Now there's something that I should have done before starting all of this, which is give myself a better handle on the miniature. And I'll explain why in a second. Okay. So as you're slapping paint onto your miniature, you don't want to be touching the wet paint, and also you need like a very good posture and to be able to paint the smaller details and be careful and not go over stuff that you've already painted. You want to have a good posture and a good hold on the miniature. And what I like to do, especially with smaller miniatures, I have this little bottle cap thingy. I can't remember where this came from, but something like a Lysol can, or I don't remember where this came from. This is just like a bottle cap of some aerosol spray. I can't remember. Or is this, or I think this might be from like detergent, maybe? No, like, yeah, I think this is from like a detergent bottle or something. So I grabbed this, and you can use like a can, yeah, like a bottle from a cap from a can, Jesus Christ, or anything where you can glue your miniature onto. And what I mean by glue, this is what I use. You can also have like blue tack, or if you want to use like double-sided tape, or some people use magnets, or whatever you want. What I use is this thinking putty thing. I just grab a little bit of it. Now this isn't as good as blue tack, but when I started painting, this is the only thing that I had on hand back when I started painting, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And I found that it actually works very well to hold miniatures in place. So I just put it on the top, flatten it a little bit, and then you can just press your miniature down to it, and voila. Now you have a handle for your miniature. Now you want to make sure that it's very well in there so that it just doesn't fall as you're painting. Maybe I might have used too much of it, but we'll see. So that way you have a better way to hold on to your miniature without having to touch it. You know? And that also helps if you want to go for the small details and you need to like brace yourself. It's always a good practice to like rest your hand against your other hand or against the handle that you're using, and then from there, you know, you can go into the smaller details. Okay, some of this stuff is already drying, and it's drying very transparent. So I might have to go, I might have to go with a second coat. But that's what we're here to learn, because this is what I wanted. I wanted to get a feel for how flesh stone behaves and how I can make shading and highlights with flesh stone colors. So I find that with colors like flesh tone and yellows and, you know, sometimes pinks, you have to do multiple coats for it to be more opaque. I'm sorry if I'm not making any sense. I'm just like concentrating because this guy has a lot of muscle and I have to go into all the little nooks and crannies to like get all those muscles painted. Now it's okay if with this first coat like you go over some parts that are not going to be flesh tone. That's fine, because we can always paint over them later with the actual color that's going to go there. Once you already have like everything base coated and you're moving on to other steps like washing or highlighting, you want to be more careful where you put your paint. But right now, since we're just base coating, I can just do this quick and dirty and not have to worry about it a lot. The good thing also about painting miniatures is that it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. Mistakes are very easily corrected. And I used to get a lot of anxiety when starting a project like this, when, you know, starting a miniature, because I never wanted to make mistakes. I wanted to just like be perfect the first try. But as I went on painting, I was like, it's okay to make mistakes, because fixing those mistakes is very easy. Just go over it with the previous paint that you were using, the previous color, and that's pretty much it. You don't have to worry about it being perfect on the first try. And that's the approach I'm using here. I want to get some paint inside that mouth. That sounds very weird, but now, especially when painting the faces, you want to be extra careful of not obscuring details, and this is way too runny, but that's okay. You want to move your paint around so that you get coverage, but you don't obscure the small features of the face. Okay, this thinking putty is not doing its job right now. I'm having to hold on to the miniature anyway. I swear to God, it works. It works. I used to use it all the time, and it was amazing. Let me see. I think I just like put on too much of it. Go for half-seas of what I have right now. I should just like bite the bullet and get myself actual like blue tack or something, instead of jerry-rigging my my miniatures like this. This should be better. The other thing too is that since this is a longer, like taller miniature, it leverages the putty out of place. Whoop. Okay. So, where were we? Still some muscle over here that needs to be painted. Now, I don't know, I don't remember this character, because I am a big Critical Role fan, and I've listened to all of campaign 2. I don't remember this character, honestly. I think at some point there was some shenanigan with like giants and stuff. I don't know if this is what that's supposed to be, if it's a giant, if it's supposed to be a troll or an orc, or I don't know. I don't know what's the deal with this guy, but I don't remember any double or two-headed like giant thing. But you don't really need to know the history behind a miniature to come up with a story of your own. You can always look at the miniature and think of a history for yourself. Like I can see that, you know, they're like conjoined twins, and one of them is angry at the other one, and I don't know, they're like, oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Oh, god dang it, Carl. Because one is angry at the other. Okay, I slapped on too much paint there, so I want to get that out of there. I'm trying to whisk away some of that paint that I just slapped onto Carl or Jim, or whatever their names are. Okay. Still missing some spots. Okay. Now, you do want to wait for the previous coat to dry before applying a second layer. That way you're not creating texture and removing some of the paint that you already put on the miniature by slapping on some more while it's drying. If it's still wet, then it's no problem, but once it starts to dry, you want to be careful of not ripping that paint out of place with some other paint, or some more paint rather, because then you're gonna be leaving brush strokes and creating texture on the mini. So I'm just gonna do one coat on all the exposed fleshy bits. Now, something that I love to do while I am painting miniatures, because I'm usually like focusing a lot, as you can tell. I can't even like form a coherent sentence in one go. I love to listen to some audiobooks or podcasts while I'm doing this, and it's very relaxing because you're concentrating a lot in a task, but it's also very nice as you're doing that to have something playing in the background. Right now I just have like this stream music going on, this playlist that I made for like my Magic the Gathering streams and stuff, with some like medieval music. But when I'm not streaming, when I'm painting on my own, I love having something to listen to other than music. Of course you can do it with music too, but I love listening to audiobooks and podcasts as I'm doing this. It's very relaxing. It really helps you decompress, have like a creative outlet. Now these bits here are very hard to reach because there's a loincloth there. I didn't know that they would go so far with the texture of the mini, but there is an actual loincloth, like in the, you know, covering the family jewels or the crown jewels. And getting to the inner thighs is kind of hard. So as you're painting, if you've never painted miniatures before, you're going to be doing a lot of moving around and rotating your miniature. And you have to do it to get into this very deep and obscured bits of plastic. Oh, yep, exactly what I didn't want to happen. Yep, I need to get myself some actual blue tack or something. This miniature is too tall. It's not sticking. It's not sticking properly to the base. What the hell are they doing upstairs? I don't know if the microphone catches that. Probably can't. There's like some banging going on upstairs. This is not a problem with smaller miniatures because they're not going to be pulling on the putty. But this guy is so tall that he's just leveraging the putty off of the bottle cap or detergent cap or whatever this is. Now I'm having a hard time telling or being able to tell where this ankle wrap begins and ends. So I was talking about books and podcasts, and some of you might be wondering what I'm listening to when I'm painting on my own. When it comes to books, I've been enjoying the heck out of the whole Court of Thorns and Roses series from, or by rather, Sarah J. Maas. I think that's how you pronounce her name. They're very good. They're like adventure, like fantasy adventure romance kind of novel series. Think like something like Percy Jackson, but with more romance in it. Definitely more adult than Percy Jackson. If you're underage I don't know that I would recommend it. Although, you know, kids these days, they'll watch and they'll listen to whatever, and they'll read whatever as well. But the hell is going on with the banging? Definitely, especially the later books, they really lean on, you know, the intimacy of the characters a lot. So be on the lookout for that if you're underage. But the books are very good. I'm enjoying the heck out of them. I'm currently, I think, how many books are there? Thorns and Roses, Mist and Fury, Wings and Ruins, Silver Frost, whatever, or Starfrost. I can't remember the name of the small one. And Silver Flames. So there's what, 5 books so far, and I am on the 3rd one. The series is not finished yet. The author she finished a previous series called Throne of Glass, and then, you know, she's still writing, or she still hasn't finished rather, the series that I'm currently on, which is the whole Court of Thorns and Roses saga. And she started another series called Crescent City. So she's working on that. So hopefully someday, before I finish with the books that I'm reading, she'll have released the final installment on the series that I'm reading. That way I'm not stuck waiting for it, like, I don't know, the people that are still like waiting for George R. R. Martin to finish the book series on Game of Thrones. I don't want that to be the case with Sarah. That's a series that was recommended to me by my girlfriend. My girlfriend has read all of those books, and she is currently finishing Throne of Glass series, I think. She already has some of the Crescent City books. She's the one that recommended it to me, and I've been loving it. I'm not really into like the whole romance novel kind of genre. I don't mind if I'm reading something and the characters fall in love and there's romance involved. But like, I wouldn't necessarily choose a romance novel like, say, for example, Twilight or 50 Shades of Grey or what have you. Like, that wouldn't be my first choice. But the fact that this series is so heavily on fantasy and adventure and action, and then of course, you know, there's a romance element to it, then when that stuff shows up, it's not as annoying as just reading something that's purely romance. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I guess they're doing some construction upstairs. Not necessarily construction, but they're like nailing stuff to the wall or something, because there's like a bunch of banging going on. Okay, so that's first base coat of flesh tone. I don't think I'm missing any other fleshy bits. I just want to wait for it to dry a little bit before going on with the next coat. While that's drying, I do need to look for my phone charger. I'll be right back. Now, back to the whole painting thing that we're doing. When you're painting and when you're applying paint to your paintbrush, One thing you want to avoid is what I just did to this paintbrush. I just don't really care because I'm just using it to slap some quick and dirty coats on this. But when you're slapping paint on your miniature, you want to avoid getting paint all the way down here on the ferrule, because then that will split the ends of your paintbrush, and you don't want that. You want to have a fine tip. You want it to be very uniform. But like I said, I don't mind destroying this because that's the whole reason I bought them. Destroy them. But that's something that you really want to be careful of. Like when you're painting, you want to get a lot of it on the belly. Like load up your paint on the belly of the paintbrush. Like say for example halfway through the bristles, but you don't want to get all the way down to the ferrule. So that's something that you need to be careful of. So see where I need more coverage. I'm gonna thin this down. Some more coverage here. So I'm going with a lighter second coat of heavy flesh tone. I'm diluting it a little bit more with the water because what I want is just to make sure that all those bits that dried transparently get a little bit more coverage, but not to the point where I am obscuring any details on the miniature. I just wanted to have some decent coverage, and I want the paint to go into all the nooks and crannies, just to reinforce that main coat that we just did a little bit. We definitely don't want to have all that muscle definition and sinew and to get gunked up with paint. So that's why I'm thinning it down a little bit. Now here on the face, I'm gonna be thinning down a bit more. Just gonna apply some paint to both of them at once, so that way I don't mess up the features of the face. So I want to move the paint around before it dries onto other surfaces. That's a technique called whisking. What the hell is going on? So much banging. That technique is gonna become more apparent when we do washes, which is gonna be the next step after base coating. But essentially, if you have a large deposit of paint into a recess or something and you don't want it to dry there because it's gonna obscure detail, then you can grab another brush and whisk away that paint. Or if you're using the same brush, just make sure that it's not super loaded with paint, because otherwise you're just gonna be adding more to that pool that you're trying to get rid of. So it's better to use a clean, dry brush. Not a dry brush, but a dry brush. A brush that doesn't have any paint. And whisk away that paint that is sitting in that recess that you don't want to obscure. I'm interested to see like how this stream will turn out, because yeah, all the time that I've been painting miniatures and uploading videos to social media, I never show like the actual like full process. I always speed it up and make sort of like a time-lapse kind of situation. I just call it speed paint because, you know, it's all sped up. But with this, when I upload it to YouTube and if people are watching on Twitch, people will actually finally get to see like what goes into those videos that I make. I'm kind of interested what the reaction and the interest will be on that sort of content. Okay, I think we're good with that. We're gonna let that dry before applying any more flesh tone. Okay, so that's that. Now, the loincloth we can do on brown. I like this brown. I don't think... Do I have an extra opaque brown? I don't think I do. There's green, skin tone, or not heavy, heavy gray, heavy green, heavy black green. I don't know. I don't think I've ever used that paint before. I guess I only have the one. Oh, there's leather brown. Okay, so I have leather brown and beastly brown. I think for this I am going to go with beastly brown, and then if I need to highlight it, then I can mix in some leather brown in there, or maybe okay, here's what I'm thinking. I might use the leather brown on the barrel. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. Using some leather brown on that barrel. Okay. Take up the paint. Shake. Add some of that to this palette. Okay. So let's continue on with this base coat. We're still on step 1, base coating. So let's slap some paint onto the loincloth and the wristbands and ankle wraps and that kind of stuff. Now here I'm gonna try to be extra careful not to get paint on the skin tone that we already painted. I will most likely fuck up and get some brown onto the skin tone, but as I said, we can always go back with some heavy skin tone and fix those mistakes, so it's not a big deal. This is where bracing yourself comes in handy. So you can be very, very precise on where your brush is moving. Now those fangs there are gonna be a pain in the ass. I'm your biggest fan. Hi, thank you, baby. Does this hurt the figure? I hope not. I hope it doesn't. So far, none of my figures have complained. So I wouldn't know. That's a funny question. Does it hurt the figure? I don't know. I've never asked. Are you hurt? I mean, one of them seems to be hurt, the other one seems to be angry, so I wouldn't know. Okay. Now, brace myself a little bit here. This would be easier with a smaller brush, but who's got time for that? Thank you, Turbo 105, for following. I really appreciate it. It's so different hearing that notification when I'm not playing a horror video game. I didn't jump for my life when I heard that, because that's usually super loud, and I'll be like playing a horror game, be like concentrating on something, and then that thing like blasts my ears and just gives me a heart attack. So relaxing now that I'm just like focusing on painting. With some chill music in the background. Not scared for my life. Okay. Really focusing on this bit right there. I got a little bit on the flesh, but that's okay. Kaden approves of the color palette. Thank you. Say hi to Kaden. Okay. I'm gonna go for the big areas first. And then take my time on the smaller edges that are right up against the skin. So far, I think I haven't messed up a lot getting brown on the skin tone. But like I said, those mistakes are easily fixed. What is gonna be hard is getting that loincloth. I don't even know if I can show that. You guys can see right there in between the legs, there's like a little bit of loincloth there. That's gonna be interesting to paint. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Sorry, just had a little bit of a mishap here with my wet palette. That's interesting. Still getting used to the whole wet palette situation, because I've never painted with a wet palette before. And this thinking putty is not doing its job very well. Can't even like get it out. My resort to just gluing the miniature to the cap. Okay, so this brown paint is drying even more transparent than the heavy skin tone. Well, it would make sense because it's not an extra opaque paint. was banging on the ceiling, Jesus. Okay, sir, I'm really gonna need you to like stick to the base. It's not really working. Excuse me. Okay. So I don't know if Andre, if you're still here, but I was just telling the stream about how I enjoy listening to audiobooks as I'm painting. And I was mentioning how the last thing that I was listening to while I was painting by myself was the Wings and Ruin book. I gave a little bit of a shout out then because you were the one that recommended that to me. Okay, this is not working out. So I might just have to go the annoying original route of just holding to the miniature as I'm painting because I need to get myself something a little bit more sticky, and that is not working out. That's gonna hurt the miniature. I don't know who asked before if this is hurting the miniature, but this thing definitely will if I keep dropping it onto the table. I'm still here. Yeah, so I was saying earlier on the stream that that's a good book to listen to while you're doing stuff like this. Service Dominic. Oh, okay. Hi, Dom. I didn't know. Well, I hope that answers your question. That dropping it onto the table definitely will hurt the mini. Okay, so I think that's most of this covered up, except for this little bit over here. Once it dries, then I can like take a closer look and see not only if I missed any spots, but also if I got some of that brown onto the skin tone. Now, if it's on the edge between the two like textures, is not that much of a problem because you really want to like make sure there's not a big divide between like you don't want it to be like a white outline between the two different colors, right? You want it to be like a seamless quote-unquote transition, even though it's not really a transition, but just like stuff like this, missing spots like that. So I'd rather just make it seem like the cloth is actually sticking to the skin, and one way of achieving that is making mistakes like having the very edge where the two pieces meet be like brown in this case, because the brown will be over the skin. So that is not a bad thing to happen sometimes. Of course, if you get like in the middle of the thigh, if you get some brown, then that's something that you want to correct, because then it doesn't make sense that there would be any brown there. It's all contextual in a sense. sometimes you want to blur the edges between the two different textures or the two different pieces of the mini, and one way of achieving that is actually making mistakes and making mistakes as close in proximity as possible as the intended objective of your paintbrush, which is, you know, brown on the brown, flashstone on the flashstone, that kind of stuff. Now, how am I gonna get any paint up there? That's my question. Some miniatures are like kind of bendy, so once this dries, I'm gonna try to like bend that loincloth out of the way. See if that helps, because otherwise there's no way I'm getting in there. That is very, very tight space. Jesus Christ. And like when I'm painting, it also depends on like, why are you painting? Are you just painting because you just want to have cool things to look at when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, or are you painting because you want to have like a piece of art sitting in a shelf somewhere? Are you painting because you want to, you know, like enter competitions and stuff like that? It really depends on like the amount of detail that you want and work that you want to put on your miniature will depend heavily on why are you painting it. So the reason why I started painting miniatures was because I wanted to have cool monsters and stuff for when I DM'd in Dungeons and Dragons. I just didn't want to show up with like, you know, Dorito chips and dice and stuff like that on the battle map to represent the character players and the monsters that they were gonna face. I wanted to have the real deal on the battlefield, and that's why I started painting. And I started painting because, of course, it's Dungeons and Dragons. The first thing I painted, well, I painted a Minsk Kambu miniature. I have it here. Show. My first ever miniature I painted. The Minsk Kambu miniature that comes in the Army Painter paint set. And I would say like I did a decent job on it for it being my first miniature ever, and being this size of miniature. Like, you can compare the size of the two-way. I mean, look at this. And this has a lot of detail in a very smaller area. You can even see like Boo here and Minsk's shoulder. I'd say I did a pretty decent job on this for it being my first miniature. And after that, after painting this, because it came with my paint set, with the Army Painter like beginner paint set, I moved on to painting creatures, and I started with the large dragons and all that kind of stuff, because that's what I wanted to, you know, catch the attention of my players when I was DMing. And so I painted dragons, I painted beholders, owlbears, bunch of other stuff, elementals. One of the ones that I'm the most proud of was a Baylor that I painted, I think last year or a couple years, I can't remember at this point. Now this is getting a little bit tougher to hold on to. This one I wanted to have that cap to hold on to the mini. So that's the reason why I paint, is because whenever I get back to Dungeons and Dragons, I want to have cool creatures for my game. And I find that it's more cost effective and easy in a way to paint the miniatures that you want to use, rather than buying, like, for example, the what are those called, like the WizKit, like boxes that come with like random miniatures in them, and hope for a chance of already getting one of the monsters that you want, because those come painted already and the quality is not good, but I mean they're only designed to to throw them on a table and, you know, play. They're not really going for like amazing art job on those minis. But the thing is that those boxes are sort of expensive, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna get the mini that you're looking for. So I find that the most effective way to getting monsters that you want is to paint them yourself. And that's why I paint the miniatures that I paint. Like, of course, you have to have dragons, you have to have beholders, you have to have owl bears, you have to have all the classics, you know. You never know when you might need them. And the reason why I'm painting this guy is because I want to improve some techniques. And I feel like this is one miniature that will help me accomplish that. And of course, he's cool looking, right? Like, after I'm done with this, I might introduce it in a game sometime, someday. So the reason why I'm going on this tangent is because, like, say for example, it's hard for me to get to that loincloth thing and to cover all of it up. But really, when you're playing at the table, nobody's going to be looking down his pants, you know? That'd be kind of weird, and people will stare at you at the table for doing that. So it's really not that big of a deal if I don't paint that. I'm going to try my best, but, you know, it's not something that I'm going to be giving a lot of attention to in this miniature, because it is completely obscured. So it doesn't really matter if I wanted to like leave it like white like that with just the primer, then that'd be perfectly fine, because nobody's gonna be looking at that. Now, if I was painting for like a competition or something, then I might want to do that, just because they're probably gonna judge every single paintbrush or paint stroke, brush stroke. I'm having a stroke. But if it's just for like game purposes and you just want to have something interesting to look at the table, then it's not really that big of a deal. I'm a bit of a completionist myself, so I like to put a lot of work and care into my paint jobs. But depending on why you're painting the miniatures that you're painting, you can call it quits just with like a base coat and a wash, and that's it, and that'll be perfectly fine for the table. Since this is like a creative outlet for me, I want to actually go the extra mile and do cool highlights, and, you know, not just settle for like the easiest way possible, unless I'm on a time crunch. If I need a dragon for next session tomorrow and I haven't, like, I'll just slap some paint into it and just forget about it. But if I have the time, I like to actually put some care into it. Trying to get some paint on this edge right here, but I'm not managing to do so. I'm gonna have to like stipple some paint there. Okay, now how am I gonna get to this spot? Like so. I don't even know if the camera is showing like the lengths I'm going to cover all the primer on this leg situation here. I can't even see myself. I need better light. Let me see. Because the mini is casting shadows on itself, so I can't really see much. Oh, that actually looks good on camera. I was using the middle setting of my lamp because it was reflecting too much on the white primer, but now that I've got some paint to it, you can actually see better with the brightness all the way up. Okay. Are you dry? You're kind of dry. Ah, yes. Give me access. Give me access to your underbelly. Now, I don't want to bend it a lot because I might break it. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not going to be a completionist on this loincloth. I just want to get paint on the bits that will definitely be a bit more exposed. Okay, that's good enough, and we can set you back in place. Perfect, we have brown in there. Okay. Now for the wrists, the same color. Missed a little bit of flesh tone there. Maybe I can just like go over with the brown. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, now here I'm using the edge of the brush to get that little bit there. Almost like an edge highlighting technique. So I'm not going over a lot of like kind of technical jargon, because this is just the first step. It's just base coating. And it's probably the most annoying step. It's the most time consuming. It's the least interesting one. Some people might look at this and be like, what are you talking about? It looks amazing already. Wait until we get to the washes and the highlight. It's gonna be even better. Oh fuck. I thought I put some paint on his head, but I didn't. Once you go to the next phases of the paint, of the painting, you start washing and doing highlights. That's when the magic happens. This first step, the base coating, is very tedious, kind of annoying. But once we get into washing and especially highlighting, I might go over some terminology like stippling and layering and glazing and wet blending and all that kind of stuff, which I am in no way an expert on. I've been researching a lot how to do those techniques, and this is gonna be my first time attempting one of them. I feel like I missed a lot of paint there. I don't know. No, that's not. It's hard to tell sometimes what is the hand and what is the wristband thingy. And I definitely don't want to get any brown on that head. I gotta be very careful with this. I think I added a little bit too much water to that, but that's okay. I can just take a little bit of that off because I don't want to obscure those details. Reinforce the first layer we have over here. Take a little bit more. That glob of paint reinforce back here. Yeah, that was a little bit too much water on that. Because it started to like bleed through the, or towards the I might just go let it dry and go over it with some flesh tone. I was gonna like try to like lick it, but I don't really have like enough room there to like lick that little bit of paint off. That's something that you can do if you get like some paint that is still wet onto another piece that is already dry. You can wet your finger and wipe that away with your finger. It's not gonna be like perfect, but it's better than having like a glove of paint where you don't want it. I do need to go over some bits with more flesh tone, but that's okay. Just some spots that I missed, and now that I'm coloring in the rest, I can notice a bit more. So miniature painting, there's a lot of going back and forth, you know, applying one color, going back to reinforce, like give it a second coating. Then you move to the next color and you make some mistakes, so you want to go to the previous color, and then you realize that you missed some parts with the other color, so you have to go back to the other color. There's a lot of like back and forth, and it's all part of the process. So if you're starting your miniature painting journey, don't get discouraged if you have to go back to another color. If you make mistakes, they're easily corrected. It's all part of the fun. Okay. I think I can let that brown dry for a bit. Now, the good thing about working with a wet palette, as opposed to, you know, a regular old plastic one, is that your paints remain wet on the palette for a long time. They don't dry as quickly, because acrylic paints, they dry very fast. And so by the time you're done with like one color of paint and you want to go back to the previous one, that's probably going to be already unusable because it's already dried out. But with a wet palette, you don't have to worry about that, because that paint will be usable for a long time, multiple sessions even. So I missed a bit there on the elbow. Now that I'm back to this skin tone, then I can remember where were the bits that I wanted to paint. That's funny how that happens. It's like, as I'm painting the brown, I see a lot of mistakes that I did with skin tone, or bits that I missed. And now that I'm back to the skin tone, I can see the mistakes that I did with the brown. Yeah, definitely there. And here, there's a lot of stuff that I missed there. ankles. Okay. So we can let that dry for now. I'm thinking, as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, what do I want to do with the base? And so another good thing to do when you're painting miniatures is to balance the color scheme. And what I mean by balance the color scheme, you don't want to, like, you know, of course, if you want to have a myriad of colors and have the entire color wheel on your miniature, you like go ahead, you can do whatever you want. But it's going to be distracting and it's going to be busy. What you want to do with your miniature is like have the colors be balanced throughout the miniature. So, you know, there's the skin tone, of course, is covering most of the miniature, so you can't get more balanced than that. And we have like some equilibrium when it comes to like the beastly brown on the wraps, on the extremities, and on the center of the miniature. And now I'm going for a higher area of the miniature, which is the barrel. So the best way to balance the color that I'm going to put there would be to use the same color on the base. Now, that doesn't mean that at the end, like the end result is going to be like, oh, it's just the same color up and down. Because we're going to be doing some things to the barrel to make it look more like wood, you know, and give it a little bit more wood texture. And we're going to be doing something different with the base to make it look more like a base, right? But the base coating of the colors is going to be the same. And for that, I am going to be using the other brown, the leather brown. That's a little bit more yellowy, yellowy brown kind of situation. And what I'm thinking I'm going to do is the barrel, I'm just going to, you know, like base coat with this and then wash it and give a little bit of like wood texture to it with like a dry brush. The base, I was thinking this guy to be like a grassland kind of, you know, dweller. Here in the carpet that I have, I'll show you in a second. I just want to like really mix this paint together because it's been sitting for a while. So in this case, I don't know if you guys can see it. Of course, they're not using flesh tone, they're using like a blue on the miniature. But here you can see the base is like a rocky kind of like the way that I look at it, it is almost like a kind of like a mountain rocky situation, you know. It's not necessarily brown, it's more like a dark gray or black kind of deal. But I don't want to do that. It could also be like mud, but it doesn't really look like mud, it looks more like rock. So I'm thinking it's like a mountain situation, but I don't want to do that. When I look at this guy, especially because of the color scheme, I see it more to be like a grassland kind of monster. So I want to do, and of course since it's big, any patch of grass that he steps on, he's gonna destroy. So I want to do like kind of like a sandy uprooted grass situation. So I'm gonna go first with a little brown on the base, and then I'm gonna build highlights with some green to make it look like there was grass there before and he just like ripped it as he was walking or stepping there or fighting or whatever. And that's gonna differentiate it from the barrel. Now, do I have any tape here? It would be awesome to have those things, because I really want to prop this up on the this tape really sucks. Much tape. Now, this is not the best solution, but I guess it's better than nothing. Just putting tape on it. Did that hold? Nope. Never mind then. I really need to get myself some blue tack. I've said that a billion times this stream, but it's true. But that's okay. We've done this before without something to hold on to. We'll do it again. Okay. So, time for that leather brown on that barrel. Slap some of that paint there. Okay. Now that's gonna make life harder because what I've been using to hold on to the Mini all this time has been the barrel. But what can you do? Now the barrel is gonna be easy to highlight because it has a lot of texture, so it's perfect for dry brushing. And it has very deep recesses that are gonna be awesome for the wash to do its magic. And I've been hyping up this wash thing for a while, but as we're nearing as we're getting done with the base coating part of the miniature painting, we'll jump into the wash segment of it and you'll see what I mean by this mythical wash thing. Okay. Really want to be careful not to get any paint on their heads. The only reason being I don't want to overload the heads and the face with paint. Oh, I missed a spot there with the brown. Okay. Now the grooves on this barrel are very, very deep, so I have to thin down my paint so that it flows in there. And do a little bit of a stippling motion. What I mean stippling is like jamming the top of your paintbrush onto the miniature, and there's very different uses for that. Mostly it's used for highlighting, a very specific of highlighting and blending. But if you really need to get paint onto those deep creases there, you can like jab your paintbrush in there to make sure that you cover all of it. Okay, I want to be careful here with the hands. Need to get that thumb there. Okay. I'm gonna change the music soon because I'm already tired of listening to the same thing over and over. Just want to be careful here with the hand. switch out the music. Yeah, I noticed as I was changing the music that this camera that I'm using, this webcam, is very I don't know, it doesn't saturate the colors very well. So, oh fuck, I got the wrong paint. It looks very desaturated, and I really want to convey like the colors that I'm going for here. So I up the saturation and the contrast a little bit. Still going for that leather brown on that barrel. Still base coating. If I go very quiet, it's because I am very concentrating on not getting those hands painted with the brown. Now, one thing that you can do to avoid mistakes like getting brown on that other surface is just to press down, like put the bristles away from the other surface and push the bristles down so that they near the edge of that surface that you're trying to avoid without painting on it, right? So you're letting the bristles expand into the area that you're trying to paint, but not go over the surface that you're not trying to paint, if that makes any sense. I'm trying to get this a little bit right here, but it's kind of difficult. It's kind of hard to get in there. I guess that's good enough. Oh, let's see. A little bit of barrel that I missed there. Okay. Round this up a bit. Make sure I get all the edges. Huh, I didn't notice that. This side of the barrel is flush, but then this one here is indented a little bit. I don't notice that. I don't know if that's how barrels usually do, like if that's how barrels work, but must be. I don't know. Whenever I see barrels depicted anywhere, they're always either like both like that. Yeah, I guess both like this, but I don't know. I'm guessing this is the bottom and that's the top. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. I'm not gonna paint the base just yet. I want to wait before doing the base. Another thing that people do to make their bases more interesting is, and that's something that I really want to do, I need to get on that. They'll buy like very fine sand, or if you can find it like outside or something and you cook it to get rid of, you know, any bacteria and stuff. You can get like very fine sand, and then you can put glue on the base and then just sprinkle a little bit of sand in there, or just like dunk the miniature with the glue on, you know, the receptacle where you have the sand, and that way you'll create like a more natural looking base. And there's also like, you can go to craft stores and stuff like that where they sell little like glue on tufts of like grass, and you can put it like around the base of the miniature, and that it makes it look more realistic. I haven't done that yet. I really want to do it because it looks very cool. But so far I'm just gonna go with like a basic paint job and try to make it interesting as is. Sorry. Gonna wait for this to dry a little bit. Now the bindings on the barrel, I am going to base coat it black, and then after the black I am going to go over with some silver or gunmetal. I think gunmetal might look better. So where is my black? So base coating, when you're doing swords and like guns and stuff like that, it's commonly recommended that you base coat it in black and then either dry brush the highlights with the metallic paint, or just like paint over the black with some silver or gunmetal or whatever it is you're using. The black undertone, it makes it look like actual like iron, like, you know, or steel, depending of the color of the metallic paint that you're using. Here I'm going more for an iron look, so I want to do the black and then gunmetal, which is a little bit darker. But I want to let it dry a little bit. Just put it to the fan. Let it dry a little bit faster, hopefully. Now in this one stream I might not be able to finish the miniature because this is a large miniature, it's gonna take a while, and we've already been going for 2 hours, but I at least want to get the base coat done, and then we can move on to washes and all that kind of stuff later. Oh, and since we're here, I might as well do the details on the loincloth and the bones and all that kind of stuff. Oh, the bones. Should I do the bones? Maybe. I am going to use a very fine paintbrush. Which one should I use? Maybe this one will work. Now that's a fine tip. Very fine tip, and I'm gonna use this for the details on the loincloth and stuff. So I want to do this in the same oh no, this is no bueno. What the hell happened here? I dropped the cover of the I don't know how that happened. There's a cover that goes in around the paintbrush to protect the bristles. I don't know how I dropped it there. Okay, I'm going to go over some more beastly brown. Here for this string here. Now I just want to cover that, and then I'll go over more. I'll go over with some more flesh tone to fix any mistakes. Right now I just want to get some browning. I am painting over some flesh tone there, but like I said, it's okay to make mistakes because they're very easily corrected. Got that, and I want to paint the bones with some bone white. Shake that bone white a little bit. Here. Now small details like that you can leave for the very end, because we're still not done with the area surrounding those little details. Like we still have to wash it, and then doing highlights and that kind of stuff. So we're definitely still gonna go over this area, and that opens, you know, opens up possibilities of messing up and going over the stuff that we already painted, like the small details. But in this situation, I'm not really worried about it because there's so few like details like that that I don't mind going over them once I am in those later highlight stages. I want to get paint all over here and then go back with some heavy flesh tone, but I want to make sure that I'm not leaving anything untouched. And then some bone white here. And I need to go over some more skin tone. Found that. Down here. That barrel is almost dry. Sorry, I realized I wasn't talking into the mic. I was just saying that we're almost... What was I saying? Oh, that the barrel is almost dry. So we might be able to go with another pass. And again, I'm gonna dilute the paint a little bit. I don't want to obscure those beautiful, beautiful textures. Okay. I think that's pretty good. Got some decent coverage on that barrel. Let's look at how this mini is coming along. Anything else that we might want to go over with, like some flesh tone over here that I missed. Oh, this is gonna be tricky. Okay. Now see, this is why I don't like holding on to the mini as I'm painting it, because I'll strip the paint where I'm holding it. That's not good. That's why you want to be able to hold your minis with like that little cap that I was using that wasn't working today. Next time I'll make sure to grab an actual adhesive device that I can use. I mean, I guess I could super glue it, but I don't want to do that because I am eventually going to super glue the same base onto that clear one, and I don't want there to be like any leftover super glue that's gonna prevent a good bonding. Over some beastly brown. Where was it? Here. Now this fine detailing work is not really necessary at this stage. Sorry. But like I said, I'm a bit of a completionist, so I like making sure that I've covered everything that I want to cover before moving on to the next step. There will still be a lot of back and forth going on between paints, but as for right now, I just want to make sure that I'm not leaving bits of miniature that are still exposed to the primer. Okay, I think that's good enough for now, so let's let that dry. So after the barrel dries, I'm gonna go with some black on the bindings, and once that is dry, then we can move on to the table wash. Is this good? Trying to see what do I want to use for the bindings. This might be better. Now don't do this at home, but I am going to like trim this a little bit. It's sacrilegious. I'm not really gonna trim it, it's just that there's some like there's a couple of bristles that are longer than the other, and that's gonna mess up the paint. So I'm just gonna like make it flush with the rest. There. It's tiny, very tiny, but trust me, once you start painting with that one long bristle is gonna mess up everything, because it will be full of paint and it's gonna be leaving lines all over the miniature. Let's prep the black while we wait for the barrel to dry. Black in there, maybe just a tiny bit more. I'm not gonna be using a lot of it. Oh hi, so this is me from the future as I'm rewatching the stream about to edit, and turns out that parts of the stream were muted because of copyrighted music, even though I was using a copyright-free material, but whatever, who knows at this point what's copyrighted and what's not. So what I was saying here is that in your miniature painting journey, part of it has to do a lot with blowing very masculine-like onto your miniature. And there's no real way of making it look even more masculine than it already looks like. So you just have to bite the bullet and just blow on your miniature like a real man's man, whatever that means. And another thing that I was mentioning was that if you don't want to blow very manly like on your miniature, another thing that you can use are like hand fans, or some people even use like blow dryers. But if you're going to use a blow dryer, please make sure to use it on the low setting and also use it in the cool setting. That way you are not damaging your paint job by melting your miniature. I'm not really sure what else I was talking about in this segment, but there's a couple segments like that that, you know, are gonna have my beautiful after the fact voiceover. So see you on the next one. I just wanted to let you know that this is what's going on. Fun. Just gonna do it quick and dirty and then go over with some more leather brown, because otherwise I'm gonna be here all night. Very hard to see those small details. Okay, so that's most of the binding painted. Oops. Didn't mean to slam the miniature. A little black there. Clean it out. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit and then go back with some more leather brown, and I think that'll do it for the base coat. We can move on to some washes. Now, I don't think I'll finish the entire miniature today. So my goal for this stream, what's left of it, is just to finish with the base coat and start applying some washes. And from there, then next time we can focus next stream on highlighting, which, since is the main thing that I want to improve on, is probably going to take me a little bit of time to do that. So we can dedicate the entire next stream to just highlighting. And then on this one, we'll close up with some wash situation. So while we wait for that to dry, I'm actually going to blast my fan into it. Hopefully I'm not making too much noise. Let me move this miniature out of the way. So, when it comes to washes, so what is a wash? A wash is a very thin, sort of like ink. It's not ink. It's like a mixture of an ink medium with like paint. I don't know. You can ask people more experienced with that kind of stuff, like what goes into mixing and pigment and you know, mediums and stuff. But this is more like a mixture of like ink and paint. So it's very thin, it's very transparent, and it's very liquidy, it's very runny. And the purpose of the washes is to put it all over the miniature, and of course in a controlled manner. And there's places where you can use washes and places where you cannot, but in general you're supposed to, you know, wash the entire mini with, you know, the wash. And what'll happen is that it'll darken everything down, focusing especially on the deepest recesses of the miniature. So what's going to happen, of course, everything is gonna look a little darker, like the entire paint that we've just put on to the miniature is gonna look a little bit darker, but the areas that are gonna be the darkest are the ones that are furthest from the surface, like further deeper than the surface, because that's where the wash is gonna want to deposit itself, right? And that will create an illusion of shadow. So all those areas that are like in deep recesses, they're gonna be darker, therefore creating the illusion of shadow. And this stuff, the washes, are usually like considered, or not considered, but like they're colloquially named like or called talent in a bottle, because once you go from like base coating, which base coating right now it just look very bland, uninteresting, and like plain. It's like there's nothing much going on there. But once you apply the washes to your miniature, all the little details of the miniatures are gonna pop up, because they're gonna be highlighted from the shadow that you just applied to the mini. And it'll look so much better. You'll be able to see all the little details and all the little textures on your miniature, and it's gonna be so much better. And to the point where if you're like just wanting to get the mini done as quick as possible for the next session of Dungeons and Dragons and slap it on the table, just like doing base coat and a wash is more than enough. We're gonna take it a little bit further than that. We're gonna actually go to the highlight step of it, where so the washes are gonna apply shadow, is gonna shade the creature or the miniature, and then we have to bring back up the original color and also go a little bit lighter, or with lighter tones of color on the edges that are going to be illuminated by the light, which is highlighting. So we're going to take it a step further. Now, the way that I like to apply washes, I like to match the color that I'm shading. Because you could do, if you want to just do it quick and dirty, you can just like, for example, use non-oil, which is essentially black wash. There's a color wash for every color, essentially. Non-oil is black, and of course, you know, when you think of shadows, of darkness, you think of black, right? So you could essentially like dunk the entire miniature on black wash and it's gonna do the job. But I like to make it a little bit more nuanced, and I like to match the colors. So for like dark browns, I like to use this Agrex Earth shade, which is like a dark brown. So I'm going to be using that for the loincloth and the wristbands and the ankle wraps and all that kind of stuff. For the barrel, I'm going to use the Seraphine Sepia, which is a lighter, like kind of brown color, but very light. This is good for, you know, like bone, when you want to darken like bone kind of texture, or gold, or that kind of stuff that you don't want to like make it completely dark. Seraphine Sepia is a very good color because it's like, you know, like a dark yellow brown kind of situation. And for flesh, if we're going for like Caucasian kind of flesh tone, I like to use this Raglan flesh shade, which is like a reddish brown. So that one's good. There's also like violet, so there's a violet wash if you want to do something like that. There's blue with Drakenhof Nightshade, or whatever that's called. There's a null oil that's glossy. I've never used this one before. I'm kind of curious to see what will happen if I use this on like the bindings of the barrel, but I don't know. I might not use it today, but I'm guessing this could be good for, I don't know, like weapons and stuff like that. I like to wash my silvers and my gunmetals and that kind of stuff with like non-oil. So maybe if I'm doing like a sword or a gun or something like that, that I want to make it like futuristic or something, then I might use the glossy finish of the non-oil. And I also have this crimson red wash right here. So I like to match my colors, is what I'm saying. So what I'm thinking for the entire flesh tone, I'm gonna use this Raglan flesh shade, then Agrex Earth shade for the leather loincloth and the wraps around the ankles and wrists, and then this for the barrel. So that's the plan. I gotta go over some more. Well, I'll see. I might not do it because as I was, you know, grabbing the miniature, I was stripping away some of the skin tone color. Yeah, see here. You can tell right there. Might just do that right now because I'm waiting for everything to dry. Let's see. That's why I don't like to hold on to the mini as I'm painting, because then you're stripping away the paint. I need a better way to affix the miniature to my little base over there. I also got some black on the arms. So cover those mistakes a little bit. Also need to go over some brown. There. Oh, turns out we have another completely silent segment. So in this segment over here, essentially what I'm talking about is that as you're painting your miniature and prepping for washing, you want to make sure that your base coat is completely dry before applying any sort of washes, because then the wash, if the base coat is not dry enough, the wash is just gonna make it muddy and it's gonna take away some of that paint and it's gonna mix with the wash and it's not gonna be pretty. So you want to make sure as you're prepping for your washes that your base coat is completely dry. And as I'm putting it over the fan so that it can dry a little faster, I'm twirling the miniature around so that it can dry evenly, and I'm noticing more mistakes and I'm just going over them with the base coats so that we can just apply the washes later. Yeah, I think I definitely like overloaded my my wet palette with water, but that's fine. You live and learn, you know? It's like as I'm rotating the mini for it to dry evenly, I keep seeing more spots that I missed. That's just part of the process. You have to go back and forth a lot. That's just how it is. Okay. So, well, I think that the only thing that's left to dry is the black on the barrel. So, you know what? I am going to bite the bullet and just super glue the mini onto the little thing, because now that I'm gonna be moving to washing and later on highlighting, I really don't want to be touching that mini at all and ruining my paint job. I don't care as much if I'm doing just base coating, because base coating is a lot of going back and forth and getting everything covered. But once I'm done with that and I start moving on to washing and highlighting, I really do not want to be touching the mini unnecessarily. So here. So we're just gonna super glue it there. Hopefully by the time we're done and we need to like rip it off there, it's not gonna damage the mini. We're gonna let that sit there so that it bonds properly. I don't know, this might be a terrible mistake, who knows. Okay, not enough. I'm not getting enough super glue in there, I guess. I don't understand why nothing is working when it comes to this freaking base thing. The silly putty that I've used a billion times didn't work. The tape didn't work. Now the super glue isn't working. What the hell is going on? Come on. Okay, let's see. Is the glue there? Is it good? It would appear so. Okay, so from what I can tell, the flesh tone is dry. So we can start shading that, and then we can shade the other brown. And lastly, the barrel. So for washes, you want to use a thick brush that can hold a lot of the liquid. I am going to use this one because I'm going to be washing a large area. So you want something that can hold a lot of it. And the way you want to apply, you want to dilute it a little bit so that it runs better and it's not gonna clump on your miniature. And you also want to essentially let the water do its work and let it sit on the deepest recesses, but you don't want to add so much of it that it pools. You just want to create shadow. You don't want to create a blob of paint on the miniature. So I'm gonna load it up with the wash, and I'm gonna go from the highest surfaces down, making sure to apply it and then move it. If it starts to pool, I'm just gonna move it before it starts like modeling the miniature. And I am only going to highlight this way, or shade this way, the flesh tone with this color. And since we're diluting it, the wash is gonna try to go to the deepest recesses and stay there. We just don't want it to pull like that. We want to move it around. So we just want to guide the wash rather than like brushing it as if we were painting. What we want to do is just move the wash around so that we cover the entire thing, but at the same time we're depositing the wash in the deepest recesses. And just let water do its job. Now I'm just making sure to whisk away any unwanted pull and just applying it to other parts of the mini. So you can already see how the wash sits on the deepest recesses of the miniature, and it brings out all that extra detail. That's why the wash is always so gratifying. So I think we're done with that. Now I'm going to go with a smaller brush and wash the brown with some Agrax Earth Shade. Oops. Again, I'm diluting it a little bit and just let the water do its job. I'm gonna try not to go over the flesh tone, but if you do, it's fine, because at the end of the day, all it's doing is creating shadow. And like I said, I apply it to the top first and just let it go down and guide it where necessary. To the wraps. Now, when applying washes, it's good to imagine what parts of the miniature are gonna be darker than others, what is gonna be more in shadow than other parts, and that way when you're moving your wash around, you can make sure to like concentrate the most amount of wash on the parts that are gonna be the most obscured or in shadow, and then move from the raised edges the parts that wouldn't be so dark, if that makes any sense. That's why it's called targeted wash, because you're just trying to make sure that you're washing where you want to wash, with the color that you want to wash, and with the amount or the concentration that you want to get the most out of your wash. Okay. I think that's pretty good. And lastly, we're going to go over the barrel. Try not to touch that black a lot. It doesn't really make sense, a lot of sense to like wash the black paint, because it's not like it can get any darker. Well, I mean, I guess you could say it could get darker, but it won't make much of a difference in this case, because we're gonna be painting over that with some silver or gunmetal. So what I want is for the wash to bring out that wood grain. Now it's important to cover everything with the wash, because otherwise you're gonna have two different tones of paint in different areas, and that can make it just look like stained rather than a uniform wash. So you want to make sure that you're getting everything covered. And like I said, moving the most amount of wash to the parts that will be the most in shadow. I think that's good enough. That's a good wash right there. And now we just let it dry. Washes tend to take a lot to dry. Takes longer. So we're just gonna let it sit there for a few seconds or a few minutes. I'm trying to close this bottle, but it doesn't want to get closed. It has this little like tab thing over here that sometimes is a pain in the ass. Oh, there we go. Nope. There we go. Okay. Now with your washes, especially Citadel, you want to make sure you close them, because I remember when I first started painting, I was just like leaving the bottle open, and I was washing. I can't remember which miniature was it, with non-oil, the black one, and I just accidentally knocked over the bottle, and I just wasted all my wash essentially, and it really hurts because I mean, washes are so cool, but like these paints are, you know, they're not necessarily cheap. I wouldn't say they're super expensive, but they're not necessarily cheap, so you really want to conserve them. And just like wasting all of it because you spilled all over my table, it was so heartbreaking. Apart from, you know, Citadel washes, I also have here Vallejo washes. I don't like these as much. They're made with, you know, a different, let's say, mixture, like a different method. And I haven't gotten the hang of it. But they also come in like all sorts of different colors. Now I'm having some clumping over here with this wash, so I'm gonna whisk that away, because I don't want that. So what I'm doing is just with this clean brush, I'm trying to move that wash around a little bit and whisking it away like so, and then drying my brush in a paper towel. That way I can control the amount of clumping wash that I have over here. You want to do that before it dries. Thankfully washes take a long time to dry, because otherwise you're gonna have like weird pools that don't really make sense to have, and you start creating textures like I just did there. That's okay. I'm not going for any trophies here. Just want to whisk that away. Plus I'm gonna go over all of that when we highlight it, so I'm not too worried about that little bit there. Here there's a lot of wash here that I can take away. Just whisking it and putting it in a paper towel. Now that just stained it right there, but that's fine. You gotta be selective, like what you consider a mistake and what not, because that technically could be a mistake, but it just makes it look like a little bit more raggy, or raggedy, rather, not raggy. So it's fine if I have that little like splotch right there, because it makes it look like worn. So, you know, like Bob Ross used to say, it's just happy accidents, you know, stuff that you can contextualize. So you can already see how the wash just makes everything pop. It makes everything, you can see all the sinew of the muscle, you know, the veins on the feet, on the hands, all the little textures here. It gives it so much more like three-dimensionality, rather than just being like, you know, just flat all one color. This really makes it look way better. So that's why washes, you can also see like the grain on the and even though it's not dry, you can already tell like what it's doing to the wood. It just makes it look so cool. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then on Friday next stream, no, not on Friday, sorry, on Tuesday next stream, we're going to start doing the highlights and the base and just get this mini done. And that's gonna do it for this one. I'm really happy that I get to, you know, do this and palette just to make sure that the paint doesn't dry. I am really happy that, you know, I get to do this kind of stuff. I love streaming and I love creating content, and I also love painting and I love miniature painting, and I wish more people would get into the hobby, not just of miniature painting, because, you know, miniature painting is something that I really like a lot. It's something that I enjoy, especially because of my love of Dungeons and Dragons. But not just that, but just having people pursue any sort of artistic endeavor, whether it is painting or coloring or drawing or I don't know, whatever it is. It just makes me happy to know that there are people out there following their passions and, you know, doing some artistic endeavors that just like really warms my heart. And because I consider myself sort of an artistic person, whether it's music or painting or whatever, or editing. Just gonna clean my brushes a little bit. And I really want people to be able to pursue the stuff that makes them happy and any artistic endeavor that fulfills them. And if that turns out to be miniature painting, then you know, welcome to the club. You know, I want more people to enjoy these kind of things, this kind of hobby. And if I in any way, shape or form contributed to that decision or introduce anybody to miniature painting, then I would feel so, you know, I don't know, fulfilled in a way. So satisfied that I can introduce people to a hobby that I enjoy and encourage people to, you know, give it a try. Is not hard to do. It's time consuming, but I think any artistic endeavor is time consuming. But once you get to these steps, like the washing and stuff, and later on the highlighting, it's so gratifying. And it's so gratifying, like seeing all your minis once they're done. Like I have 2 shelves full of miniatures that I've painted, and I need to, you know, I need to get more shelves, especially if I'm gonna be painting miniatures like, you know, this big. Because I'm running out of space for all those miniatures. But it's very gratifying. It's very satisfying. And just give it a try. It's not hard. It's very easy. If you make any mistakes, it's very easy to fix. And, you know, it's something that if you're into like role-playing games and tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, something that, you know, it opens you up to other types of hobbies. Like you can start playing role-playing games, you can try other different types of painting. I've heard of people that started miniature painting as a hobby, and then they got hired by Hasbro or Mattel to work on like Transformers figures or like toys and Barbies and all that kind of stuff. And you can also make a living out of it. Like if you wanted to pursue like miniature painting like as a profession, you can open up art commissions and have people that are into Dungeons and Dragons and stuff send you their minis, and you can paint them for them, and you know, earn some money out of your passion. And there's also like competitions that you can enter. There's a lot of things going on with this kind of stuff that I think is very cool, and I wish more people were willing to try, you know, stuff like this. I never envisioned myself miniature painting, never in my life. But I grew so attached to Dungeons and Dragons in a span of like, I don't know, a couple years, that I was like, I want to try my hand at DMing, and I want to have cool miniatures to, you know, be a cool DM and, you know, give something interesting to look at for my players. And that's how I got into this, and I love it. I love every minute of it. I never saw myself doing it, and I feel like I'm pretty decent. It's not really hard to do, and I love every minute of it. And so I think that's where we're gonna end up this stream. This is what our miniature is looking right now. It's a little dark, but we're gonna be bringing all those mid-tones back next time with the highlights, and then, you know, we're gonna close it up with a finished two-headed giant with a barrel. So if you watch this, whether on Twitch or on YouTube, thank you so much for sticking around. We've been streaming for 3 hours and a half almost. If you want to catch this live, if you're watching it after the fact on YouTube, you can follow me on twitch.tv/Edubrasal, and your name will appear down here in this little ribbon. And also, I don't have it set up right now, but I'll have it set up for next stream. Anything that you type in chat will also appear down there in a little chat box, so you can interact with other people during the stream, and your name will pop up on the screen. And if you are watching it on YouTube after the fact, make sure also to subscribe, like, comment, do all that kind of stuff. And you can also follow me on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok /Edubrasal, where I'm constantly posting like highlights of the stream. I also do, if you're interested in like this miniature painting stuff, I have a bunch of videos on my Instagram and my Twitter. And I started recently doing it on TikTok too, with like a high speed kind of like time-lapse painting videos of the miniatures. So you can check those out too on my social media. And that's gonna be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Next stream is gonna be on Tuesday, so I'm setting myself up with a schedule. So I'm gonna be streaming Tuesdays and Fridays around 5 or 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, so you can be on the lookout on my social media, where I constantly announce when I'm going live, and that way you can also be here when the stream starts. But next stream, we're gonna be finishing up this miniature on Friday around 5 or 6 p.m. or not Friday, Tuesday around 5 or 6 p.m. And then from there, we're gonna be, you know, flip-flopping around between video game content, miniature painting content, and anything else that you would want to watch. Just make sure to comment on YouTube if you're there, or if you're in chat, just let me know what you want. And also on my Twitch page, there's like a little suggestion box where you can like throw around any suggestion of games that you want me to play, or miniatures that you want me to paint, or anything else that you would like to see me do on stream. So anyways, that's gonna do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. It really means the most to me, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Zombie apocalypse.